Only then I can start the session. Okay. Akshay, if you're there, please make me the host again. Okay. Yeah, I've just started the song. Krishnapriya, you can start the session. Okay, let the people join in. You can start the sessions and maybe keep talking, and then you can take it from there. Okay.
We are entered into the session, right?
Yeah, everything is done.
See the
That's okay because you are not the host. I'm the host. That's fine. Okay. That's okay. That's okay.
May I start?
Yeah, please.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking your time to join us today. I'm Krishnapriya, working as associate course leader at UniAthena Global Education, and we are the leading provider to the online masters, doctorate, and diploma courses as well as short courses. So, as a part of UniAthena's continuous effort to update you with the latest topics, today we have a very interesting webinar lined up for you on the topic, the fifth industrial revolution, a game changer in the business of engineering. Just a few points before we start on the webinar. We are glad to inform you that you will all be provided with a certificate of participation who attend the webinar till now, or till the end. You will be receiving it through your registered email. And in order not to disturb the course of the webinar, please communicate only via the chat box. If you have any questions for the presenter, please use our chat box option, or you can submit your question via the QA session box. Okay. You are also requested to turn off your mic when the speaker presents. And if you have any queries, as I've told you before, you can use our chat box. Okay, you can post your questions in your chat box, or you also have the option to raise your hand button. So before we go into the webinar, I would like to take our attention to our course in Masters in Engineering Management, accredited to GMU, Ministry of Education, Italy. It is an interdisciplinary program to all the professionals who want to develop their management, leadership, and skills in their engineering technologies. Now, let me introduce our panelist, Professor Mansoor Khan. He is a senior corporate trainer and business lecturer. He has more than 20 years of experience in teaching, leading academic institutions, as well as he's a corporate trainer in leadership, strategic management, innovation, motivation, and team management. He is also a consultant for Cisco Entrepreneurship Program on SME, and he is an active member of Chartered Management Institute and British Computer Society. So I welcome you, sir, once again to this session, webinar session, and over you to sir.
Thank you very much. Well, it's a very nice introduction. But I mean, we, as Ms. Nair suggested, that we're going to be doing some question and answering. I think that would make this session far more interesting. The topic itself is very interesting. We're going to be taking engineering management, and then we're going to take one part of that, which is, I think, it's a very interesting topic that we need to look into it. So we're going to be dabbing back into history, coming back in the future, and then going back to see that what exactly is happening. So there's going to be quite a lot of like a history kind of input into this as well. And I hope that you would enjoy it, and you will ask a lot of questions to basically, make the session keep going. So if Ms. Nair, should we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can start.
All right. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my slides with you guys, and I don't know whether you guys have got that, but nonetheless, I'm going to share my screen with you so you can actually see what is happening. So what we're going to be talking about is the fifth industrial revolution. I mean, we always, talk about the first industrial revolution in terms of historical terms. We talk about that what had happened in the second industrial revolution, the third one. The fifth one is actually a very new one. So we are in a very lucky kind of like time period, because what is happening right now is we're in the transition from fourth industrial revolution into the fifth industrial revolution. And this is very important from the point of view of, say, an engineering management, because the thing is like, we think that engineering itself, with the business concept in it, and then when you add them together, we get engineering management. It is very, very important to see the changes that which is happening in both business and engineering, that will basically change the way we think. And it has been like this for quite a while, well, since we started the whole concept of like human society. But before I start, I want to basically come out with a phrase which was, said by the Belgium president at one time. And I'm going to start with this and then probably going to be finishing with this as well. It says here, every industrial revolution begins with along a learning revolution as well. So it's very true that whenever we want to know that what had happened with the industrial revolution, it means that it needs to change quite a lot of things. It needs to be learned a lot of new techniques, and then we progress. So let's just start with the first one, and we're gonna, hopefully I'll get my slides going. Right. So the first industrial revolution, we are calling it Industrial Revolution 1.0. It was the whole change in mechanization of the concept. We are talking about the steam engine. We are talking about that, where we were using all the help from the domesticated animals for farming. That has changed now because we were using steam engine for a very big kind of like way in farming. We are talking about supply chain, perhaps. Then we are talking about that how that steam engine is actually made us use things in logistic, transportation. So things change in the first industrial revolution, and that change was not a very long change, because after when we realized that the industrial revolution started, the things started to begin very, very rapidly. So let's have a look at it, touch what it had been talking about, the Industrial Revolution 2.0. In 2.0, everything became in terms of mass production, and we started using electricity. So from steam, and then it became electricity, and that means that the mass production started to happen, mass factories were put in, and then things started to change. And then again, there was another revolution, which we are calling it Industrial Revolution 3.0. And I will give you the time scale later on, but right now I want you to just see that where this revolution was actually taking us. That digitization became, and then the computers start the use of computer, and that was a big change, a game changer in the revolution. And then when we got kind of like understood that what is happening, and we thought that things will get kind of settled down, was another change. That change was we are calling it Industrial Revolution 4.0. In this one, the connectivity happened. IoT, which is known of like the Internet of Things, and the data that started to connect us with a lot of things, and things started to happen very, very quickly. Here, when you're going to see the time scale, you will realize that the things were happening very, very fast. And then, of course, Industrial Revolution 5.0, as I said, that we are in the transition period. So we are in Industrial Revolution 4, and then 5.0 is actually the next one, but we are touching the surface of that. We haven't really gone into it like wholeheartedly, but we are touching the surface. And that theme is basically creativity meets the technology. Here, we're going to be seeing that how we kind of assimilate both technology and our own way of thinking cognitively, and then it becomes everything smart. So it is, the technology is helping us move in a right kind of direction in our own convenience. So that must have given you a kind of a picture of what we are talking about. And we also, when we talk about touching the Industrial Revolution 1.0, you need to be knowing that what exactly is before 1.0. Well, 1.0 was the agrarian revolution. That was the agricultural revolution which was happening, and everything was very much done on the basis of the strength of who we were. Domesticated animals, we were using machinery, very kind of like basic machineries. We were using things which were not really actually was making things any faster. So there was another revolution, and this revolution we are calling a agrarian revolution, which was a precursor to the first industrial revolution. Now remember that when I say precursor, it happened, but when that happened, it took a long time for it to happen. I mean, we've been basically doing this agriculture for quite a long while. I mean, there was not a kind of a huge jump into this. So the main occupation of mankind was farming. It believed that almost 80% of the world population was into the farming at that time. And when we talk about at that time, that means pre-1860. Perhaps 17th century. So that's all, everything was done to do with farming. And later the domestic animals became friends with humans. This increased the kind of like domestication of animal health, eased the process of agriculture. We're talking about production or transportation of goods produced. So those friendly animals like donkey, mules, oxes, horses, and they were basically used by us for every facet of our life. So everything was going, hand in hand with those domesticated animals. I'm just kind of wondering that what would have happened if we would not have domesticated those animals. Then the life would have been far more slower. That kind of domestication helped us go further, faster with the human. I mean, as I said, the help of these domesticated animals, and it actually helped with the communication as well, from sending messages from one point to another. This one of the change that in history, which caused a profound shift in human beings, where we started to living also increased a movement of people from rural to urban areas. So when we're talking about the civilization as the pocket of people living in small villages, then these cities, towns, and much bigger cities we started to produce, to become more available for people, and then people started to move from those rural area where they were farming into the urban areas. So that was the start of a revolution, which was, as I said earlier on, it's a precursor of what was happening, or what was about to happen. And what exactly about to happen was something very interesting. And that was the revolution, which we talked about now. It's an industrial revolution. In industrial revolution, we all know quite a lot about it because we are read from different books, schools. We touched on it every time we talked about it because that was a big change in our life. The first steam engine was invented by Thomas Avery in the year of 1698, and then advanced model of the same was invented by Thomas Newcomen in 1712. So you see that, within the span of perhaps 14, 15 years, there was a huge change in that. The concept, the ideas turned into something very big. And that something big, literally big, was like a huge steam engine. And that basically changed the way we started to do things. So this invention paved the way for what we call the first industrial revolution. Steam engine brought in many possible use in case in mining, textile production. So the 80% which we were using in terms of farming as the whole of the world's population, they started to kind of look into other things as well: textile, mining, production, the communication, the railroad. And all of these things started to happen just because of one invention. It is also revolutionized the transportation industry by introducing steam-powered engine in railway. It led to increased use of machine power and reduced the burden on animals. So, those nice little friends that we made in our well, the agrarian revolution, we started to look after them. But let me tell you something, that people were not really happy with this. They thought that this is something, evil. This is something which is actually destroying our society. What we were doing was quite good, and this industrial revolution was not really a big thing. As in case of the agrarian revolution, Industry 1.0 was also accompanied by an increased utilization of approximated time frame of revolution was roughly around 1760 to 1840. So roughly 100 years, it has changed a lot of things. The reason I said that why people were not really happy, because the population were not that big at that time, or prior to that, 1760s industrial revolution, because not many people were basically living in those areas, and they were not really used properly. So what exactly happened was that industrial revolution started, and people started to getting more things much more quicker. So the transportation became much better. Then the life of people started to improve as well, with a big question mark on it, because a lot of people, especially writers, poets, they were not happy with the industrial revolution, and because the usage of human beings at all levels were seen as like a more exploitation rather than used. William Blake, Wordsworth, they were writing poems against the industrial revolution. They were saying that they're actually destroying the fabric of society, and all the good things, which is in terms of environment, is being destroyed as well, which is in many respects was quite true. When I was doing this research, I actually looked into what was happening. So during in Manchester and in London and Birmingham, these were the areas of like core area of industrial revolution. The smoke which we used to come out of the factory was like so black with like these pollution, that it used to color the birds and the trees and everything else. And people, poets were writing poems about that kind of, that how it is blackened the whole of our environment and the society with this. But as I said earlier on, that means there was a lot of learning curves as well that we had to learn. And then it happened because industrial revolution, because the new thing. And that new thing was the second industrial revolution. It started in the 19th century as a result of mechanization and urbanization of the industry of 1.0 revolution, which was like, we are talking about industries only, became prevalent to more people who started to work in urban areas. So their rural areas started to kind of like get less people in there. And it was left for only few of those farmers who did not go into this this industrial revolution, but quite a lot of movement happened in terms of population into the urban areas. So several key advancement happened during this time: electricity, the telephone, the first incident in light bulb, radio transmission, etc., of which made mass production a reality. We are talking about mass production to an extent that we started to go into, the huge things with like Henry Ford. He started to mass produce things. Before that, things were done by, artists. Things were done by craftsmen. Things were done by specialist people who would make only one-off things. And as soon as we got into mass production, their artwork basically turned into kind of a business thing. Here we were producing to sell at a mass level. Huge societies were buying this. And that means that Industrial Revolution number 0.2 started to work in a way which we thought that, that why people are buying so many of these things. Well, produce more and more and more, so we will have more money coming in. So that was the period where industrialists actually made huge sums of money. This revolution was a window of opportunity, which opened up possibilities for many innovation that we see around us today. Now, in this revolution, what had happened was that people started to, kind of invent things. There's a huge distinction between invention and innovation. So this was the period where invention was happening very, very rapidly. As I mentioned, light bulbs, radio, electricity, all of these kind of things, telephones were invention. Cars were invention. We are talking about improved version of the steam engine. Railway was invention. We are talking about, in terms of transportation, glimpse of aeroplanes were invention as well. So these kind of things happened. Then we were hit with something that was kind of like changed us very dramatically, and that was the third industrial revolution. Started around 1960s, where the usage of computerization, digitization started to happen. Excuse me. The key drivers of change were like growing development of semiconductors, industry increased use of mainframe computer by big organization, increased affordability, and the use of personal computers by individuals and across the internet. I mean, that was the thing that really revolutionized quite a lot of things, and it happened very, very quickly. Again, I'm going to talk about the time frame, but I'm not going to show it to you. Because you will see that why the time frame is important. Because if you look at the 1969, I mean, that really changed a lot of things. People went to the moon. People were started to use computer as at every facet of their life, basically their work. They're using personal computers and stuff like that within that area. So that led to increase in some of the other digital technology as well, every possible application. It also gave rise to the possible automating many industry process, especially in manufacturing. And that time, if you go back a little, after the First World War and Second World War, that people were using all of these things and becoming part of that industry where the humans were very much involved in that. But 1969 onwards, the companies like Toyota, Japanese company, they started to implement robots, and that was a huge crisis where we saw that that is going to be taking over the world, and humans will lose their job quite dramatically, and there's going to be a problem with how we feel about all these jobs and everything, and then it's not going to be job for life. There was some change, no doubt about that, but then more of these jobs started to pop up, and those pop-ups were basically the job which actually helped how things became. So with the help of this revolution, we successfully moved from along the digital world, the phenomena brought in as the unimaginable convenience in way to communicate, shop, keep ourselves engaged, entertainment, life. I mean, I'm in because I've seen both the third revolution. I am in the fourth revolution, and I am touching what the fifth revolution is all about. So I mean, that way I'm actually quite lucky. It's quite interesting because one of those tape players, the cassette player, I showed it to my kids, and they're like 8 and 11 years old, and they didn't have a clue what was all that about. So what I have seen, I was born in 1969. So what I have seen is a very big chunk of last 52 years, and the world has changed quite dramatically. There was like huge change in everything. So what happened was that after that, we got into fourth revolution. Then here, again, the third revolution paved the way for the fourth revolution. Industry is all about technology that integrates the activity across the physical and biology and digital fronts, powered by numerous digital transformation took place over these years. I mean, one of those things is, this thing we carry all the time. Um, if you compare 20 years ago, this is what my PC looked like. I mean, as powerful as this. Perhaps this is far more powerful than my PC during the 90s and 80s and 90s and 2000. So the change happened very, very quickly, very, very fast. And there was a huge leaps in those changes. We are talking about the digital devices, including sensors, smart everything, and then ability to store and analyze the data that is being collected. That front changed everything as well. This revolution is changing the way and meaning of almost every activities in our personal life, that is reshaping our industry and probably the way the government think as well, because the government is very important in this, because they need to create the kind of a message for industry that what's going to be happening next. And for that, they need to look at the future and perhaps learn something from the past as well. So that really changed. This one of the changes in history which caused a paramount shift in human way of living. Also, they increased the movement of people from urban to smart urban living. And this is the key thing: smart urban living. I mean, these huge cities like Bangalore, Hong Kong, New York, London, these cities, Shanghai, Beijing, they are changing the way we actually do things. Vast majority of people are actually moving from rural area to urban areas. In China, over 700 million people were basically moved from rural area to urban area to, feed up these industry for the labor. So these changes are happening quite rapidly. Now, what came was basically changed everything. And it is changing. It is still in the transition period. And that period is the fifth industrial revolution. That is changing the way we are, the way we function, the way we function with machine. Very, very important. This picture is actually quite a poignant picture. I don't know whether you guys have seen Sistine Chapel. In this, that the human is touched by God. This is the same thing, that machine is touched by human, and vice versa, of course. And that has really changed the way things are with us right now. Let me just introduce you to what exactly is the fifth industrial revolution. Industrial Revolution 5.0, we're calling it, is concentrated onto the interaction between human and machine. Remember, in the fourth revolution, we were talking about the connectivity. Here, it's more to do with how we can interact, how we can make things much, much easier between the machine and the human being. Here, we can support each other, and it may sound kind of funny, but support each other, machine supporting human and human supporting machine, to make things much, much easier for us. So beginning to see human working together with machine are linked to intelligent manufacturing plants through devices. Industrial Revolution 5.0 expected to resume push towards more technologically advanced human-machine interface. I don't know whether you guys know that Amazon has got this, warehouse where they have around 240 odd, small size, about this high, foot higher, 2 feet wide robots. And these robots are working 24/7. pushing out order for Amazon. And that means that it is a really very helpful. I asked some of my students that, how much can you lift? Can you lift, somebody said, oh, I can lift 50 kg. But these robots are lifting crates of roughly around 250 kg. And they're working 24/7 without any complaint, without any break, without any breaking down, because the system itself is looking after these robots to see which needs maintenance and which doesn't. So this whole thing is basically working. What we can do as human beings, we can start to look at things that how we can improve things. So our job again is not in question mark, because the shift over what we are thinking is going to go somewhere else. So, this whole notion of that we're going to be losing our job to robots because of the fifth industrial revolution. No, it's just a shift of the way we work into something else. I mean, if I give you an example, that I used to work for MTV, and there we used to have at that time, it used to be early time, it used to be www.com, mtv.com. That was the only thing we had in our system. After 5, 10, 15 years, that needed a whole shift. We are talking about whole social media exploded. And we did not lose job. We created new thinking, we created new jobs, we created new aspects of things. And that's how things become, so it's not that you're going to be losing job. You need to learn the way to move from one area to another. So this industrial revolution is going to be more human friendly, which will allow us to do quite a lot of things from the human point of view. And all the kind of monotonous work is done by perhaps the robots. Let's just have a look what we are talking about here again. This is going to improve integration, thus enabling faster, superior automation, coupled with the power of human intelligence. Also mean that the robot will not take over manufacturing plant at the same point, at some point soon. So, this is what we are looking at, that how is it going to be working. So if you are worried about that your job is going to be taking over by the robots, please don't, stay focused, right? Our intelligence, creativity is still very unique, which even AI cannot handle it. Furthermore, the transition from 4.0 into 5.0 involves a greater focus of human manufacturing. Additionally, this shift which bring together both the human as well as the machine dominant, and will probably also result in improved efficiency. Now, I mean, if I'm going to have 2,000 people working in my warehouse, and it will take time for me to, in terms of efficiency, it will take time for people to walk to the crate, pull the things out, and then, ship that and go to another crate. I mean, that will change. That has changed in terms of Amazon. Now all of these things are done robotically, so the time frame has slowed down as well. That means things are doing much more faster and become very, very efficient in terms of putting the order in and then receiving the order. In that sense, the time frame has reduced quite dramatically. So, Industrial Revolution 5.0 implies that people working together with robots and intelligent machine, it is about robot assisting human to work better and more quickly by utilizing advanced technologies such as Internet of Things, as well as big data, as well as machine learning, as well as AI. So all of these things are going to be helping us with the machine, kind of assimilating us together to improve things. It will add human touch in kind of accordance with the IR 4.0 pillar for automation and production. In production environment, robots have historically worked kind of work dangerous. It's repetitive or physically laborious work with welding and painting and automobile and manufacturing plant and loading or unloading heavy materials, which was basically donkey's work for human. So the robots basically took care of that. Since machine at the workplace come to be more intelligent, much more connected in Industrial Revolution 5.0, is targeted by combining cognitive computing ability with human cleverness and ingenuity in collaborative process. That's what we are looking for. This is what 5.0 is all about. We are talking about that the machine and human working together in a kind of a right way. 4.0 Industrial Revolution will be working safely, efficiently alongside human. It's not that we are giving robots the dangerous things to do and that's it. It's not that. It's that we are using this in medical field, in precise industries, like where you have to use very fine and efficient and fast way of doing things. So these machines are basically helping us there as well. While industry robots have traditionally operated independently from employees and behind safety cage, the collaboration of human machine work opens the door for, we are talking about numerous opportunity in manufacturing field. Since the use of 5.0 or currently still their relative formative years, manufacturing may be actively organized wide incorporate human and machine work with view of maximizing the technique advantage that can be gained as the movement continues to develop. I mean, these are the things which are happening all the time. And as I said, we are in the transition period. We are just moving from 4.0 to 5.0. So there are a lot of things which is happening with a lot of learning, of course. And that learning needs to be done by both of us, the human and the machine. So if you look at it, the launch of collaborative robots, that is us working with the computers, with the robots as humans working together. And this collaboration is happening. I mean, if you look at some of the robots, which the facial features and the answer and the machine learning and the artificial intelligence, all of that is making things much more quicker and faster for people to know that what is happening. So these kind of things, you need to know that this revolution, which is going to be, really is going to be with human touch. It's not just going to be machine. It's going to be human touch. When I say recently, I'd say that in the last 5 to 10 years, there's one movie came out and it's called I, Robot. I don't know if you guys have actually seen that movie. That means it shows that how robot is basically used in every day of our life. But then the negative side was that the robot gone all right, kind of mad, and it started to dominating human. I mean, again, there's a difference between reality and your movies are. So don't think that it's going to change anything, but there is going to be a kind of a help which we're going to be getting in this fifth revolution, which with a human touch. This revolution is basically to help humanity. We are talking about resources of humanity and modify your working approach as well. You may not need to go to the your workplace, and we have seen this during the pandemic. That means that technology became kind of a savior. Instead of when we had the lockdown and there was nothing was done, but this technology was used to communicate. I was giving all my lectures on internet for almost year and a half. I was getting students. They're giving me their work. We were doing quite a lot of interactive things as well, and that all happened because of technology and the willingness to learn that what human wants to do. So I am when we talk about Industrial Revolution 5.0 will not lead to replacement of worker in automation. It will shift our job in more thinking, more imaginative job, more creative job, those kind of things, because we still need to shift that what is required from us to machine, our imagination, our thinking to machine. And for that, we need to have this collaboration that what we are capable of doing and what these machines are capable of doing, created by, of course, us. Um, Industry Revolution 5.0, an employment opportunity for creative thinkers and specialists. So what we need to do is that we need to shift our change, the way we think, as we did in the fourth industrial revolution and the third industrial revolution, that we started to use machine for our progression. I give you a very good example that I bought phone to my dad, the smartphone. And what he does, he still don't know how to navigate that phone. My son, who was about 2 years old, he could easily navigate my password to different ways of using the system to get to the YouTube, to get his favorite cartoon and watch this without any problem. And this is the difference, that when you're born into a technology era of technology, it becomes easier for you to start thinking that way. And that creative thinking would really help us to think that how we can have human and machine working together. We're going to be looking at the Industrial Revolution will create a new role in manufacturing. Things are going to be far more precise. There will be very limited way of the quality is going to go down in a very simple way. I mean, quality is going to be very, very precise. I'm talking about the quality checkup. We will not be able to do those checks as that we do it now, because everything is going to be precision based. If we are creating something that we know that first prototype, we feed in all the details in that, and every time is going to come out exactly the same thing. That is because of the smart machines, smart connectivity, smart manufacturing processes. So that would really help to emerge as the robotic department and the shifting role of the IT department due to IR. So we're not going to be dealing with how we dealt with the IT. If I've got a problem with IT, they're going to be dealing with, oh, by the way, blah blah robot, it needs some sort of overhauling, it needs some sort of help, or it needs this or that. So that is going to be changing. Perhaps we're going to have IT department and the robotic department merging together. The rise of industry in the renamed human resource department into the worker resource department, where we're going to be shifting. We're going to be hiring people. Some of them are going to be human. Some of them are going to be robotic works. So that is going to change. The fifth generation industry begins customer satisfaction and open new market. I mean, I can come in and I can say that, I want to go and watch a movie. And for that, there's going to be a completely different way of entertaining things. Instead of people at the counter, that we're going to have robots at the counter. The advent of experience-driven manufacturing economy focused on providing satisfying customer experience. So there's going to be a huge change from virtual reality to the 3D concept and all of that, and in manufacturing as well. We are talking about using machine, making houses, 3D printing. All of these things are happening, and this is all again at the transition period. More improved version of that, advanced version of that to come. Industries in foundation for future focused traffic concept in smart cities with autonomous vehicle. I mean, Google is working on it. Tesla is working on it. I think some of the other big companies are working on it. Just imagine that how we were calling Uber to hail a taxi. Now we're going to be having everything done autonomously, which means that, no driver is required. Excuse me. Those people who are living in Dubai, they would know that we have got metro system, which is driverless, so their trains are going to the track from station to station, transporting people. And that 40 kilometers track is basically run by driverless train. So again, there's going to be a huge changes in how we are going to be working on. Abu Dhabi is working on this, a tube system where you are going to be moved from one place to another, and it will bring the time down to something like 20 odd minutes to go from Abu Dhabi to Dubai and vice versa, which means that there's a huge change in that. Why there's a huge change? Well, right now, if I go to Abu Dhabi, it's going to take me around 1 hour, 40 odd minutes, but the transportation, autonomous vehicles, things of transportation in terms of, these huge lorries without any drivers, because it's all done automatically. It's thing of futuristic, but it's happening right now. We are working on it. We are talking about will make companies more adaptable, sustainable, and competitive. So, how these companies going to be taking these industry, embracing these industries are going to change much, much easier. We're going to be having vehicles which are, friendly in terms of environmentally friendly, in terms of time, in terms of moving supply to one place to another safely. All of these are things that are happening. Major benefits of industries are environmental. We are talking about friendliness. We are talking about greener solution, cost optimization, customization, and innovation. The need for defining the legal framework. Now, this is something that we need to kind of look into it. That when you are talking about legal framework, what we need to do, there's going to be many laws which needs to be changing. We need to know how things are going to be progressing. The robots, who's responsible for this? All of these laws are going to be changing. So there is going to be a complete shift in how we are living and who is responsible for what. And these are something that all along all of these industrial revolution has brought us to realize things that as we grow bigger, as we grow faster, as we becoming much more machine oriented, things, the rules and regulations will change according to that. So the advent of an experience driven manufacturing economy focused on providing satisfying customer experience. This is the key thing now, the customer experience. And now, when you look at that, you realize that things have changed, which has brought us to a conclusion. And that conclusion now, if I show you the time period, the industry 1.0 is roughly around 1800. The second industrial revolution, which happened, we are talking about time frame period to be about 100 in between. Then there was like the third one happened, and that is roughly, we are talking about from 19 to perhaps 69, 70, 80. And then the fourth industrial revolution happened, and that fourth industrial revolution changed things to what had happened in 2000. And now we are looking at something else. And if you look at this time frame is which is happening right now and onwards. So the whole concept of industrial changes started in 1760. We're not looking at 0.0 industry revolution precursor to this one. It has changed from 1.0 1760 to 1870 to 1969 to 2000, and then 2020 onwards. That's what has changed. Well, There's going to be a lot of things which is happening in terms of close integration of production system and participation of human in their operation and the guidance. We kind of like merges the high-speed accuracy of industrial automation with cognitive, critical, and initiative creative skills of humans. Then we are talking about the concept of society in 5.0, will promoted by the Japanese government. And they can actually see the futuristic requirement in 2015, an idea that places society as a whole at the center of technology development rather than the industry. In all the other revolutions, industrial revolution, it was the industry came first. But in the fifth revolution, we are looking at the human being coming first. Then giving technology the role of catalyst and a driver of society, aims at the general welfare of members of the society. We are talking about building super intelligent society, technology, ecosystem, eco-friendly, environmental friendly society where things are going to be much better. Let's hope that and pray that this would be, cutting off that the whole of the environmental catastrophe that we are going to, because 5.0 will be a savior of that. The vision of fifth industrial revolution is a mass personalization, customization made possible by cooperation between man and machine as human and artificial intelligence work together in harmony. That's the concept, that's the idea of the industrial revolution. Now I'm going to close it with a couple of things which is very important, because these questions you need to ask. Any changes, any transition period that you go through, which we are right now from industrial revolution 5.0 to 5.1, 4.0 to 5.0, is the industrial revolution, fifth industrial revolution, will face more ethical questions than we have ever faced before. We talked about how the robots, what are the rules of robots, what are the rules of AI, what are the rules of machine learning, big data, all of those kind of things. And the last bit, which Alexander De Croo, he was the Belgian prime minister or president at one point, he said every industrial revolution brings along learning revolution. And that's what we need to realize, that we need to learn, and we need to learn very quickly, very much open to that. We should not be worried about it, because if we don't learn and change things, then things can go completely out of hand. So I basically finished on this. Now I think that we need to figure out that how we're going to do the Q&A. Ms. Nair, up to you.
Thank you, Professor. Indeed, it was very interesting and an eye-opening session. We have a lot of questions coming up over here, actually. Most of the questions, they were worried about the job opportunities, and a very interesting question from Kelvin, who is just 15 years old.
Right.
He is worried whether how robots are going to replace jobs, and how he'll be able to get a job. And we were getting similar questions about
right. Okay.
career.
So I think it would be a good idea if I just answer his question, because he's 15 and he's worried about the job. Allow me to beg your pardon. What is his name again?
Kelvin.
Sorry, Kelvin.
Kelvin, yeah.
Right, Kelvin. Don't be worried, because you are in a perfect time. Perhaps I have done my bit. The next industrial revolution is not gonna be happening with me, but with you, it's definitely gonna be happening. So what you need to worry about, that how you can learn things, how you can use your creativity. Forget about the job as such, because I'm pretty sure that when you are going to finish your education and when you're going to get into the industry, you will find that there's far more jobs and that you are easily kind of like sliding to, compared to perhaps me or young Miss Nair. So that's not going to be a problem for you. I'm pretty sure that everything is going to be very fine. If there was somebody who's asking me this question who is 45, 50 years old, then I'm going to be saying that, yes, you need to learn a lot of things, open your mind. But Calvin, you are perfect age, not to worry, open your mind. There's going to be thousands of opportunities for you. All right, just do your best and be creative. Next question.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions in the QA session.
Okay.
The Sukur has mentioned that to Professor Mansoor Khan, how do you think about the society readiness to the Industrial Revolution 5.0? Industry changes rapidly, but the habits and culture society is typically slower. It will become unbalancing, though the society, due to only minor of the humans, will participate in a change. So that's
right. Look, I mean, the last word you put into your question is the most interesting one, the change. Us human, we are always scared of any kind of change, whether it's a balanced way of coming in from one era to another, or it's the chaotic way of coming in. Change is very, very difficult for human to understand. But once you get into it, once you get used to it, once you understand that what is, then it becomes much, much easier. So as far as the industry is, they're getting ready. They are not entirely ready. They're getting ready, because if they are not going to get ready soon enough, there's going to be a lot of things which is going to be happening, and we're not going to be ready for that. As I said earlier on, that I am using my smartphone, and I'm only using not only me, I'm pretty sure that quite a huge number of the population is using only, very lucky 3 to 5% of this phone, and we call it smart. And the reason we call it smart, and this thing is amazingly smart, but it's only as smart as we are. So if society, if the industry is not going to embrace this, going to be left behind, and only very few industries are going to be part of this. If you're going to ask Amazon to slow down and let me be, in par with you, then we're going to work together. Amazon is going to laugh at you, and they're going to carry on doing what they have to do. So they're going to be far more aggressive in that. We need to get in kind of sync with all of this thing. As I said, that we are in the transition period. A lot of things are happening. We need to give them time and a little bit of open-minded attitude towards things, then things will settle. I hope that I answer this question for you.
Yeah, right. We have another question from Rahir. He thinks that not many countries are ready for 5.0, especially on human resource sector. And it is not easy task to solve this problem, because mostly every country still face a lack of food, conflict, etc. So how can we face it, especially if a country that doesn't have money and resources to do it? That's his question.
Right. Very good, interesting question. And a very, as I said, that, we need to ask a lot of ethical questions about regarding this. You're absolutely right. Some of the countries are not really, financially fit to go into this. But that didn't stop, for countries not to try, especially if the developed countries are there to help, the not so developed country. I don't want to use that, the first world and the third world, because we're not first world and the third world anymore, because the whole concept has changed. Agriculture is one of them that is changing everything. I am in Dubai. I came here in 15 years ago from UK. We used to have everything. We used to have cucumbers. We used to have strawberries. And when I used to go to the shop here in Dubai, it cost a lot of money because of air freighted. But now agriculture in Dubai is amazing. I get tomatoes, which are farmed here. I get cucumbers, which is farmed here. The prices has gone down. So agriculture and technology can play a very big role, especially for those countries who are not financially able to do these kind of things. It's just like we need collaboration. We're talking about collaboration of robots and human being, machines and human being. What we need is a big collaboration between, big countries and small countries as one. Remember, if something is going to happen to this world, is going to be affecting us. Environmentally, it is affecting all of us. So we need to work together, and that is required. Yes, ma'am. I hope that I answered your question on this. The next question.
Yeah, we have another question from Dunichan. Is Industry 5.0 will end the employment of workers who are working in industry, who are semi-skilled or not have a good education, but still they are working? So that's a question.
Well, the question, well, I mean, this fear that that would be the end of society and then robots will take over and that is going, it's not. You see, the thing is that knowingly, unknowingly, directly, indirectly, we all shift. I mean, we are never the same. If you go back, if I go back, we used to use basic computer language. It was known as BBC Basic. We used to use COBOL. We used to use Pascal. Now, all of those things have changed. Now you talk about it, people talk about C++, people talk about, CNET, and then they will talk about different languages, and things change and we shift slightly. It's just a question of that if regret comes from those people who are just not want to change. They want to remain tradition. But they still have fun. They still can achieve things. They still can go along. And these changes we have seen in our lives, our grandparents' life, our parents' life, our kids' lives as well. So I don't think that there's going to be a very big problem in terms of employment. Things will be different, yes, but you need to change with time and embrace technology. Don't be scared of it. You got nothing to lose. You got everything to gain if you embrace technology. And embracing technology, it comes with fear. So once you get rid of that fear, then it would be easier for you to do things rather than, worrying about it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we have another interesting question. That is, what requirements indicate that country is ready to carry out this 5.0 industrial revolution?
Sorry, say it again. I missed a lot.
Yeah, the learner is asking about the requirement that indicate a country to carry about Industry 5.0 revolution.
Well, it's the infrastructure, open-mindedness. I mean, the thing is that when you're talking about open-mindedness, then a lot of things will be happening. If you're going to be thinking that, it's not going to work and you're being negative about it, then resources are there. Resources can be achieved. Resources can be gained, bought, collaborated with other countries. But if you do not have that open-mindedness, future thinking, then it's not going to happen. I am, one country which I can see that, things happen very, very quickly is Singapore. If you look at Singapore, the open-mindedness of Singapore was such that it is one of the vital country in our world, and it is doing a lot of things which needs to be done. And they're advanced, they're very open-minded. And once you start to do things, the society itself will embrace it slowly but surely. As I said, change is difficult for people to kind of embrace. But once they open their mind, then things will become much, much easier. So, I mean, if I tell you that, oh, by the way, you need to have, i9 Intel in your computer and your laptop, and you need to have 5 robots sitting over there, I'm going to be giving you the wrong answer. The right answer would be the openness, open-mindedness, creativity, encouraging people to think, out of the box. These kind of things is needed. The rest of them will come quite easily.
We have another question also. A lot of questions are coming up.
Yeah. I'm glad.
Yeah, we are almost having 31 questions lined up in the Q&A session.
Right.
Will IA 5.0 undermine human effort and intellectual? That's a question from Subodh Kumar.
Right. Will IR undermine human effort? No, it will enhance it. It will not undermine it. It will enhance it. Because the thing is like that one thing, AI or machine learning or anything like that would not have that we have. We have, uh, ethics. We have creativity. We have understanding. We have the intelligence, which I think that no machine, perhaps in the future, it's a different story, but no machine can actually compare it with. They still need to learn a lot of things. When our brain, without any processing power, we can do so many things without any, when we are only using about 3 to 4% of our brain. If you are very clever, Einstein used they said around 5%, and his brain was dissected into many pieces and was sent into many labs to find out that how he used so much of his brain. We need to use more of our brain, which other machines cannot do. We are creative. We have feelings. Machines do not do that. So, don't worry about it. Things will get better. All you need to do is be more creative about the way we approach things, the way we think. Think out of the box. Yeah.
Yeah, our next question is from Nair. He's is actually thanking you, sir, and he agrees to your ideas. So his question is, do you think using AI and Industrial Revolution 5.0 will be able to change our manner of thinking from linear into matrix thinking in our learning process, especially in medical education in near future?
Yes, of course. Look, my brother is a doctor. He's and the way he learned thing was like, books and this was only like 20-25 years back. But now my niece is becoming a doctor, and the way they learn is completely different. We are talking about 3D skeleton. We are talking about 3D of doing things. You can go into the human body with your hands in virtual. You're talking about augmented reality, virtual reality. All of those kind of things are very, very important. It has changed the result of the way we do things. I was reading a report somewhere that this is the first time that with the help of AI, that they found out that they did an experiment on cancer, and none of the cancer patient had the cancer after that. Now, of course, it took them a very long time to do that with the help of a lot of like new technology, new machine, AI, all of those kind of things. So as I said, these things are something that we need to embrace, and we need to go there with open-mindedness. We should be, helping, thinking out of the box by using all of these things. Luckily that we are in this time period in our history that we can actually use a lot of technology to solve a lot of things, a lot of very complex things, instead of using, huge calculators. We just need to press one button and it will do millions and hundreds of millions of equations done in just like that. So we're in a very good way. We can use quite a lot of it. It's going to enhance us.
We have another question from the patient, and he feels that the luckiest generation is ours, like 70s and 80s.
I agree with you.
Yeah, he has seen the old and current industrial revolution. And his question is it worth exposing the younger generation to the old industrial revolution technologies? Will they one day need the rudimentary technologies?
Well, I don't think that we're going to go back. We can go back and show it, as I said in my, when I was giving my presentation, that I showed a cassette player to my daughter and my son, and I consider them to be the new generation because they are 8 and 11, and they couldn't figure it out what it was. So we can show them that, what we've gone through by going to the museum, and there are many museums which actually, project all of those kind of things. That's a very good thing to have, because you will not learn about the future or what is happening in present unless you explore a little bit of past as well. I mean, I was talking to someone and they came up with this, oh, the technology is this and then technology is that. And I showed them my ballpoint, the big ballpoint. I don't know whether you guys remember that pen we had, the yellow and blue cap on it. I mean, it hasn't changed in the last 50 years. It's still going on and it's still going through. So things, yes, you can go back. Yes, you can see. Yes, you can show them. But I don't think that it's going to be a complete chaos where everything is going to go completely berserk and we will not. I think we will not allow it. Machines will not allow it. This technology is here to stay.
Professor, we have one question, very interesting question. Vasan is thinking about Industrial Revolution 6.0.
Right.
He's asking how it will be like.
Right. This, I would advise you to watch all the sci-fi movies, and that will change your perspective about the, what is happening. And it's quite interesting. I mean, I love my movies. So whenever there's a sci-fi movie, I would be the first one to be there. And if you look at Minority Report, movies like that, that will actually show what is to come. I remember watching Star Trek when the series were there, and we used to be kids in 60s, 70s. So we used to open the door with our face, like, and we used to walk in. This is how we used to do. But straight after that, the elevator came and it became real. We used to talk on our tricorder, right? That, oh, Mr. Spock, this is what's going to be happening. Now we are using smartphone to see actually doing things like that. So 6.0 is going to be somewhere traveling in space with a very old Elon Musk, or probably his grandson, and planting some trees on Mars. That's what's going to be happening. Get ready for that.
So we have another question. Is machine learning the key role for engineers in the fifth industrial revolution?
Sorry, which one did I say that again?
Machine learning. Machine learning is a key component for engineers in this industrial revolution, fifth industrial revolution.
I think machine learning is a technical part of it, and we get over it. I think that what engineers need to know is more creativity, more concept management, more process sharing. They need to know more to do with, how to be thinking out of the box. And big problem with engineers is that we are stigmatized in many ways that, oh, what would you know? You're just an engineer. We need to change this concept. Excuse me. We need to change this concept, and we need to be a bit more open and think about all the things that we can do. We need to think like a manager rather than an engineer. And then you will see the process of the technical part, which you have learned throughout your engineering course, and the management part, which you are going to be using when you are actually being an engineer and working. So you need to marry those two processes together. So forget about learning as in, machine learning or AI learning. Open your mind, be creative, think out of the box.
Yeah, we have a related question with that, asked by Mohammed. What skill gap is to be improved for business management students and to get ready for the Industrial Revolution 5?
Very, very simple. I mean, as I said, be open-minded, think out of the box, and not only that, embrace technology, embrace people, because at the end of the day, those days are gone where you are sitting in your workshop and you've got a hammer and a sickle in your hand and you are just a pure engineer and you're working things out. Those days are gone. Now you have to use your imagination. Think way ahead of time that how that thing, the process you are trying to resolve, the manufacturing of a product that you are thinking of, how it's going to be happening. So you have to think way ahead in advance. Improve your imagination. Go completely wild with your imagination. That is what is required. all of those components, all of those processes, all of those learning, it's going to be happening as we go along. I tell my students, some of my corporate training, and that, half the time you learn everything on the job. You're never prepared to go for a job and say that I'm going to be there and the first day you will know everything. It's impossible. No matter if you are moving from one job to another, no matter if you're moving, horizontally from one position to another position in the same job, you will need time to learn. You will need time to learn on the job. So, whatever you do, do it with a smile. It will work for you.
So I think that also answers the question from Victor and also Farad, who was asking about the necessity to educate AI and robotics.
Right.
We also have a similar question. Should the education system from basic education be changed to be able to cater these changes?
Absolutely, and a very vital question. If you are on my LinkedIn, and I hope that you guys will join on my LinkedIn later on, but if you're on my LinkedIn, I actually mentioned this, that, the overhaul is needed for education. We are still doing a lot of things which is done, theories which came out 50, 60, 100 years ago. Yes, it's good to know, but they're not needed anymore. I asked my students, where the library is, and they said, what is that? I said, library, a room where there's a lot of books in there. And they said, no, we don't go there. And then one of the students said, no, I go there. I said, yeah, excellent. What do you do? He said, we sit down and we talk. So we used to use library, right? In education. Now I have got this thing, Uncle Google and Auntie YouTube. You can solve all of my problem, and these problems can be solved with my fingertip, with this machine on. Yes, we need to change the way we think. 2 plus 2 is 4, excellent. Knowing that is brilliant. But what we can do to make it 44, 22, what we can do to actually change this concept. That's why education needs changing, no doubt about that. It needs to be more practical. It needs to be more problem solving. It needs to be, we should allow people to grow in this education. And this is what happened. And kids are brilliant. When I was a kid, I was very naive in our way of thinking. Now, we used to steal fruit from the tree. We used to run on the, kids are on the phone, on the iPad, on the computer all the time. The way of thinking is very different. That's why education needs to be very different as well, to accommodate their creativity by looking at it that way. Okay?
Okay, so Professor, we have similar questions that is coming up. What is the effect of industrial revolution in developing countries? Like one is what like Ethiopia, where industrial revolution 4 concepts are known to only few individuals. So many similar questions are coming about this. How the industrial revolution, especially in IR5, is affecting developing countries.
Right. Well, I mean, as I said, here is the collaboration is needed between the developed country and developing country. The thing is that the gap is not because of intelligence. The gap is because of the resources. That is a big problem. I mean, if you go to Africa, in Africa, Nigeria is a very fast moving economy, very fast moving country. Population is growing fast, and in many other African countries. It's just that they need to look at what is good for them, and they need to take control of their own future. And for that, if they need to collaborate with different ideas, and when we talk about industrial revolution number 5.0, that does not mean only technology. That also means innovation. That also means processes. That also means the how we think about doing things in society. All of these things are required. So collaboration definitely needs. I would, if I was the head of I don't know, United Nations, I would create an entity to how we can help, the developing nation to come faster. You see, there's another issue, and that issue of greed. A country is not going to allow you, a smaller country or less developed country, to be standing side by side. This is human nature. So they will try to put a lot of issues in front of you, obstacles in front of you, and that will create big problems for you. But nonetheless, if you want to do things, things have changed. Look at the Nordic countries now. Nordic countries during 50s and 60s, they were horrible. The suicide rate was very, very high. Obesity was there, but they took charge of their destiny and they made things. Now the healthcare is the best. The educational system is the best. So you need to take care of your society by taking control of your destiny. Okay.
Okay. Adam and Abdullah sees that it's a very informative webinar and they are thanking us for conducting such a webinar. And Adam has another question. What is your advice for us to be a major contributors in this revolution? So
well, my advice to you as young people, I don't know how young you are, Adam, but what I request you to think about the environment. We think about how we can make amazing computers, amazing laptops, but find out what you can do to use all of these industry, machine, intelligence, AI, all of that what we can do to improve the environment. And this is one other key thing. I think somebody asked earlier about the education. We need to teach our kids how to be more environmentally friendly. What we need to do. I would advise you to watch a movie called Back to the Future, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the number is. That is what we are talking. We need to go back and see that what needs to be changed and how we can change things. So environmental issues are the issues which we need to look at it very, very clearly, because it's not going to be affecting one country, it's going to be affecting all of us. So this is one thing that you need to work on. And I want the report very, very soon about the environment and from you, Adam. Okay, work on it.
We have a similar question, like what are things that one should start learning if he or she becomes aware of this industrial revolution? So
I think that you just, as I said, that, I could have come up straight away in my presentation, what is Industrial Revolution 5.0? But you cannot do this unless you go back into the past and look through it, that how we actually gone through it, what kind of things we passed through. But you need to go back and take things. The time of invention is almost gone. The time of innovation is here and now. We used to have taxi service 50 years ago, 500 years ago, in whatever form. But what Uber did, it did not bring out new taxi. It has bring out the concept. So innovation is required. Look at the processes that what needs to be changed and how we can change those processes. And work on those processes. Those things are required. I mean, things are happening. As I said, my PC 15 years ago was a huge size. My phone is the same strength, if not more, is in my pocket. That is what innovation is all about. Think about the innovation, that what is required. You don't need to change, reconstruct the wheel, but you need to know how you can use the wheel. That is what innovation is all about. Okay.
Exactly, sir. Professor, we have a question from Nixon. He's asking whether Industry Revolution 5 has just downgraded Industrial Revolution 4 so that robots can be designed to work hand in hand with human workers and depreciate robots' autonomy. Will it regulate the use of autonomous robots in place of industries already, just like that of the Amazon warehouses?
Yes, I mean, as I said, that when you look at the time from 1 to 2, Industrial Revolution 1 to 2 to 100 years. right? From 2 to 3, it took about 30, 40 years. 3 to 4, it took 20 years. From 4 to 5, I mean, we are talking about 10 years, not even 10 years. All right, so this thing is happening very, very fast. Yes, we cannot cope with that, but the funny thing is that things are changing exponentially. In a kind of way, it's just going. If you look at the graph, it will be shoot up, and it's almost a horizontal line. Sorry, a vertical line. So that is changes that are happening. I don't think that we can bring the technology down or slow the technology down. What we need to do is we need to speed up ourselves. That is very important, that you need to speed up yourself rather than expecting things to go down. Because, 10 people may agree with you, but, many hundreds of thousands will not. Right? So keep up the pace with that. That is what is needed.
We have a question from Ahmad. He has actually 3 questions.
Okay.
One is, can robot replace a human in service and industrial works? The future technology is a virtual world. Do we live in this technology and we take our services without any problems? Last one is, what is the damage of this technology at our brains?
I think that the last one needs to be answered first, I think. Look, I believe in this, the concept of yin and yang, that there is, everything has got its positives and negatives as well. So don't think that, just because we are talking about more interaction with machine and us in 5.0, nothing bad is going to happen. We don't know that yet. I mean, as I said, we are on a very initial phase of that. So yes, things can, there are going to be some good things, some bad things as well, but we need to concentrate on the positive. Then, what was the first question? I forgot the first question.
The first question is, can robot be replaced by humans in services and industrial works?
Yes, it can, and it has actually. I mean, in the third revolution, industrial revolution, things have changed. That the robotics arms were used in car manufacturing, where and there was a big hue and cry about the society that that the robot's going to take over the job. But then we found another way to employ people, and then people talk about that during that time, during the 70s and 80s, when that happened, the population was not that much. Now the population has increased. We are still working, we're still eating, we are still doing a lot of things. I think that the question is that how we can manage the technology ourselves, because we are still the kings, we still control it. And for the good as well. I mean, I was reading somewhere that in South Korea, they have a, AI bin, the rubbish bin, where the restaurant, after, when they put the food product in there as a waste, the bin calculate that what is required and what was wasted, and how it was going to be added on to the inventory list the next time. So it will tell you how to improve your inventory list. Things like that would really help. The thing is, it's not going to replace us, because we are still very creative. I mean, a child can come up with ideas and concepts which machine cannot. So when you talk about human beings, yes, us being more powerful, more technologically advanced, but we still have our brain, and that means creativity, which machines cannot do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Professor, we have a lot of other questions coming up regarding the security. Okay, yeah. Security of information regarding the 5th Industrial Revolution. And similar to that, Vivek has asked a question. There is descriptive and natural resources-based economy on the rise on parallel. So how this technology can be incorporated with such economy on the rise to build sustainable and scientific economy?
Well, I mean, if you talk about all of that, there's a very nice quote by a rock band, and they said, "Satisfaction is the death of desire." Right? And this is our whole concept of human being, that as soon as we are satisfied with things, the desire dies and we become useless. And our human nature is that we keep these desire going. I mean, it's never enough for us. So as far as the economy is concerned, how it can help, well, we used to produce cars, people used to buy it. Then we said that, okay, it's going to create a lot of pollution, and it's going to mess up the environment. And then we have Tesla. Tesla became, the new future. And now Tesla with other companies, other cars companies are basically doing those kind of things as well. So we're continuously learning. We are continuously looking after things. The economy, if you divide that into two, we are talking about the personal economy as me being, rich or poor, and then the governmental economy, that is being the country, can do a lot. They have to look at things differently, how we can improve our things, how we can improve our country, things like that. And that means that, again, you have to think from a technological perspective that what you can do. And cryptocurrency, who knew cryptocurrency is going to be that big of a issue? When it first started, people thought that it's a waste of time. One of the guy actually sold his, I think, 200 crypto coins for 2 pizzas. And now he will be kicking himself, finding out that he had actually, his 200 coins are worth something like millions and billions of dollars. So these kind of things are happening all the time. You just have to keep on saying that, you have to embrace it and go with that.
Professor, we have questions related to the ethical and security issues related to the
security issue. Yes, it's a major issue, and that major issue is it's basically running parallel. There are going to be people who are going to be after, finding out what you can do to find things in a kind of a wrong way, illegal way. There are going to be people who are going to be fighting that. So, that is going to be happening. We had virus, we have antivirus, we have people stealing data. We have laws to basically protect your data. So those things are happening. There are going to be many things which is going to be changed, especially when it comes to personal data and security of that personal data. Quite recently, I think about 3-4 years back, Sony, the game, they lost around, or they said that they were like breach of roughly around 3 million data of their customers were basically taken away on that. I mean, I read the news somewhere. So things like that is going to be happening, but there are other ways to protecting it, and machine AI are those kind of things that are going to help protect our data from, other people who are looking to get into the illegal way of doing things.
Yes, Professor, we are getting a lot of questions over here, and at the same time, a lot of comments, but unfortunately, we are not having a much of time.
Right.
So we have to restrict to some more questions, and we'll have to wind up eventually.
Okay.
So another question from Mansoor is there any risk of self-programmed machine which will operate independently without help of human?
Is there, sorry, say again, we broke up in the middle.
Is there any risk of self-programmed machine which will operate independently without help of human?
I think there are right now. I mean, you have got AIs who are doing all of those things on their own, figuring things out, answering questions, doing things which can, yes, there are. And again, don't be kind of alarmed by it, because they're there to learn. I mean, these machine learning are basically the concept that they'll go through a process to learn things, and then things do better. So, if they make a mistake, they go back, they learn things, and then they do the same function without any assistance, without any help. And from that function, they learn a lot of things to do other functions. So it's just like, child learning by doing things, by working on things. So yes, I mean, as I said, we are initial phases of things will get better, things will improve, and then there are a lot of machines will doing a lot of those things for you. Hopefully not against you, but for you.
One more question we have is Industrial Revolution 5.0 work in hand to hand to the environmental sustainability efforts? So how?
Yes. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Sorry, it's my son, and just thinking about how to have some more ice cream without asking questions. Right, I allowed him this time. Okay, so what? Yes. Sorry, I mistracked my question. So if you could repeat that, that would be great.
Question is about how IR 5.0 work in hand to hand to deal with the environmental sustainability efforts.
Yes, I mean, very important question. And I like the way you actually combine two of the most important things together. Environmental issues cannot be solved that easily just by us. We need a lot of new technology. We need a lot of help from AI, from fifth, industrial revolution to improve things. I mean, because it's probably going to take us time to do that. Instead of doing that, we can ask the AI to suggest few things, and that artificial intelligence can actually map out a lot of things: where to plant the tree, what kind of crops are required, what kind of water usage is required. All of these kind of things are very, very important. And AI could be a great help. Industrial fifth, all of this revolution, fifth revolution would be a great help for us.
Professor, it's time to wind up. So we have a lot of questions pending, a lot to be answered, but unfortunately our time has
running
come
out.
up.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
right.
So thank you all the participants for the questions and active participation. And thank you, Professor, for your valuable guidance and information about the Industrial 5.0. We'll be sending out the e-certificates for all the participation all the participants who have actively participated in this webinar. So we appreciate you being here. And once again, let me remind you all about our course, Masters in Engineering Management. So if you're interested, you can enroll for that. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, Professor, for your valuable time. And thank you once again.
It's very kind of you to invite me. And again, thank you very much for all the participation. I'm so sorry that I couldn't answer all of your questions. But hopefully, I don't know whether my presentation is going to be shared with the other participant.
This session is being recorded, and we'll be providing the YouTube link to them. They can watch it whenever they are available.
Absolutely. And, I mean, my apologies again for not answering all of your questions, because this is one of those subjects, because there's no kind of like end to it. There's always a lot of people ask a lot of questions. They have a lot, and this is the good thing. This is the good thing where you ask questions to find out what is happening. But again, I know that, my apologies for those people who put their question down, but we couldn't get to that. But we'll do that, some other time. But please join my LinkedIn, and hopefully we will have such sessions again. Right. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes, definitely. We look forward for such sessions. And for all the participants who want to revisit our webinar session, you can go ahead to our YouTube channel and you can watch it. And you, as Professor has mentioned, you can connect with him through his LinkedIn. So thank you again for joining us, and thank you. Thank you so much.
Right.